Many years ago, some friends got me to play League of Legends with them. All in all, we played for around 5 hours, and I haven't touched the game since. So when I heard that Netflix had a show based on the game, I barely gave it a second thought. Over time, however, I heard enough recommendations to make me curious enough to watch the show. And I'll be darned if it wasn't one of the best things I've seen in recent memory. Aside from just beautiful animation, it had a level of artistry scarcely seen in modern media. And the writing was so deliberately good that I never once questioned if the second season would be on par with the first. And to my shock, it is basically the inverse in terms of writing quality. It tries pretty hard to damage the first season and its characters, and it has contrivance and inconsistency aplenty. What I'm going to try and do here is go through the season as it happens, talking about each event and line of dialogue when I feel it is needed. I may also make allusions to things that happen in the future or compare to the first season. I would also like to point out that I know next to nothing about the League of Legends lore, so my understanding of the world is coming from the show itself. I often lean toward the notion that adaptations should stand on their own, and that references from adjacent media should not be required to understand what's happening. But you are welcome to point out lore facts if you think that it will alleviate a criticism I have. God help you with this nonsense, though. This video may seem pedantic to a lot of people, but exploring the foundation of a story is a matter of looking at small pieces that add up to the overall structure. So, have a seat, this might take a while. The season starts pretty much where we left off. Jinx's rocket exploded and left several of the Piltover counselors dead or injured. Mel and Jace are miraculously unharmed for reasons that will be revealed later. And Victor is either dead or near death, it's not really clear. Jace carries Victor to the lab, and out of desperation, he uses the hex core on him. After the opening credits, we get what is essentially a music video where Caitlyn mourns her mother. It's a very sad scene, and I really appreciate all of the subtle movements and expressions from Kate as she tries to keep it together. And it should pretty much go without saying that the visual artistry is excellent throughout this season. The next scene is what remains of the Council, minus Jace, discussing the event. Counselor Wheels says that they should retaliate by invading Zaun while using Hextech weapons. Mel says that it was only Jinx, and since Silco is dead, that an invasion could rally the remaining leadership against Piltover. She instead suggests that they post a large bounty for Jinx, but Counselor Neck says that she doesn't want to leave this up to chance. And so Counselor Wheels says that it's settled, 2-1, and I'm immediately like, no, not settled, Jace has to weigh in. He's a member of the council and is heavily invested against making Hextech weaponry. Furthermore, how are you going to make Hextech weaponry without his approval? He and Victor are like the only people that know how to make this stuff, which in and of itself is something that should be addressed, but we'll put a pin in that for now. Mel decides that she will endorse the invasion, but says no to Hextech, and Counselor Neck agrees. And Mel says it's settled, 2-1. So even Mel must agree that Jace's input isn't needed. Is that a thing counselors can do? Just make a decision to invade without the full body present? Isn't Jace just downstairs working on Victor? Can someone go get him, please? Furthermore, wouldn't it be more prudent to replenish the council before you make a decision like this? So that the council can operate at full power, so to speak? Maybe try and find Heimerdinger so he can help stabilize things? I don't know. As you can tell, I'm already pretty confused, and this is just the first conversation of the season. The next scene begins with Caitlyn sorting through some condolence letters, until she finds a letter that contains an invitation and a patch for the memorial held to honor the dead counselors. This is a little thing that I'll bring up again later, but for now Kate's dad shows up for a sit. He's not doing too well, poor guy. And Kate decides now would be the best time to let him know that she had a shot on Jinx and didn't take it. Would have waited a bit myself, but regardless, they're both understandably in a pretty bad way. Dad hands Kate a key, the Curaman key. She says she doesn't deserve it, and Dad tells her that it's her legacy now. I find this kind of funny considering how she uses the knowledge it unlocks, but moving past that for now, Kate has a talk with Violet. Kate finally lets her emotions out, because Vi is the one person where she doesn't have to try and put on a strong face. Vi says that she accepts Powder is no more, and that if Kate can get Jace to fix the gauntlets, she will take care of Jinx all on her own. Kate says no more rogue missions, no more reckless plans. My mother was right. My arrogance led me to take on more than I could handle, and she paid the price. So I'm not sure what Kate is referring to here. If it's about getting Violet out of prison and taking her down to the lanes, that doesn't work, because all of the stuff they did and discovered actually put them in a better position. Learning about Silco's plan from Echo and discovering Marcus's corruption was a benefit to Piltover. I'm not quite sure how it's meant to relate to what Jinx did, but we'll keep going. Kate says that they are sending all of the enforcers after Jinx, and Vi offers to help. Kate says she can, and hands her an enforcer badge. Vi refuses this naturally, because the enforcers killed her parents. Kate says people are calling for blood, and the council won't stop them, and Vi can show them that not all Zaun supports Jinx. I'm not sure that anyone would be supporting Jinx after what she did. She killed the leader of Zaun, and she bombed the council as they were in the process of approving Zaun's national sovereignty. This is information that both Kate and Vi would know and share. Silco was pretty much the only person supporting Jinx in Zaun. Savika certainly didn't like her, and as the de facto leader after Silco, she would have no reason to keep Jinx around. Furthermore, I don't know why Violet would need to wear the badge to help in finding Jinx. Couldn't she just help as a hands-on consultant or something? Also, it seems somewhat inconsiderate of Kate to push this on Vi right now. Hey Vi, my mother is dead. Can you join the people that killed your parents in order to avenge my mother? Vi is not on board with this, of course, and Kate says, I thought you were one of us. And Vi responds, you didn't think at all. And it's kind of like, yeah, Kate, what's the deal? I thought you were done being arrogant. Anyway, Vi goes off to have a sit in the rain, and she throws a bottle at a pile of papers. The papers are actually covering a guy, who for some reason is under soggy papers instead of one of Piltover's many outcroppings, but whatever, he's drunk and sad or something. The guy offers Violet a drink, and then we go to Jace watching over Victor, who is in some kind of goo coffin. Mel walks in to see how things are going, and Jace says that Victor is stable, but that the hex core is evolving faster than he can keep up with it. And Mel decides to casually wave her hand close to it. Somewhat ill-advised, I'd say, but alright. Jace is pondering how the attack left him without a scratch compared to Victor, and I thought Mel was keeping the nature of it a secret for a reason, but as we discover later, she doesn't know either. She tells Jace that her mother is using counselor wheels to make a play for Hextech weapons. Jace says that he promised Victor never again, and Mel reassures him that she handled it. Of course, what she should be saying is, the council voted to invade Zaun. We need you to help put a stop to it, seeing as you are a prominent member and heavily invested in peace talks. But no, she tells him to go see Caitlyn. If he has the time to go over to the Petal Tornado and talk to Kate, he has time to go upstairs for a council meeting. Anyway, the next shot is Caitlyn thinking about the shot she didn't take. Jace shows up to see how she's doing. She says that since the attack she sees 3 faces. She sees her mum and says that every part of her sinks, like a stone in dark water. Yes, stones in water tend to do that. She sees Jinx, and she wants to tear that laugh from her throat. And then she sees Vi. She says that she offered Vi a badge, and that suffice it to say she declined. Can you really not understand why, Kate? Didn't you just say you were done being arrogant? She also says that Vi thinks the gauntlets will solve all her problems. And Jace asks, what if she's right? What? Haven't we gone over this in the first season? Jace knows firsthand the effects this tech will have on people if used for violence. That was the whole point of his arc. He was so against fighting due to collateral damage that he offered Silco a very generous deal. Why would that change because of what Jinx did? Didn't you promise Victor never again? Given all of his prior experience, plus the promise, I don't really buy that an attack from Jinx would make him question his stance on this. Kate replies by saying, Hextech may keep us alive, but it won't save us. Which should more or less be Jace's perspective as well. Another thing that Kate says is, I understand how easy it is to hate them, one vicious act. This is directed at Zaun in general, and I'm not sure why. Kate knows better than almost anyone that this was Jinx alone. And out of everyone in Piltover that was involved, she would have the most perspective on Undercity life. But moving on to the next scene, Vi and Guy are having a bender by a fountain. She says, guess there's no point in sticking around, except I'm the one who created the monster. Which is a little on the nose, just telling me how she feels. But hey look, some enforcers show up. This is Maddie and Fishman. Now I don't want to spoil too much, but Maddie has one of the funniest character payoffs in the whole show. The problem is that you don't get it until the final episode. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just giddy thinking about it. Maddie says that Vi is something of a legend among the enforcers, which I find odd. The most she would have interacted with him was during the fight alongside Jace, and that was like a week or 2 ago at most. Legend seems a bit strong is all I'm saying. Maddie goes on to say that Caitlyn made quite a scene when the enforcers denied Vi's enlistment, and that Caitlyn threatened to withdraw her family's funding from the enforcers. which seems like quite an abuse of power. If you don't get your way, then you're just going to stop supporting the people who keep Piltover safe? Didn't we just discover corruption at the head of our organization? Christ. Maddie finishes by saying that it's nice to know there are good ones left, referring to Vi. Good ones of what? Enforcers? People from the Undercity? I'm not sure what she means, and it doesn't work either way. This scene is meant to be Vi getting partially convinced to join the Enforcers, and I find it pretty clumsy, and frankly, not enough for a decision this big. Also, there are some shots of Guy looking shifty-eyed and pretending to be passed out. It doesn't lead anywhere, so I don't know what I meant to take from it. Anyway, some horns sound out of some speakers, and everyone starts leaving their homes to go to the memorial. Vi and Guy go as well, but because they don't have black badges, they go into the plebeian section. I think this is worth pointing out because I didn't notice it at first, but it makes perfect sense. If you have a badge, then you are someone important, so you don't get searched like Vi and Guy did. As the memorial gets going, Vi begins to suspect that something is afoot. She starts to follow this tattooed enforcer as he walks through the crowd and then sets a bag at the foot of someone in the important people area. Some other enforcers stop Vi before she can get to the Tat Guy. Tat Guy gets all the way onto the stage with a gun, and for some reason, Vi doesn't shout or point. She just kind of gasps. At the same time, the lady behind Jace says, "Awful, isn't it? Losing a loved one." She then throws off her hood to reveal herself as the Kim Barron lady from the first season. She has a chainsaw that she got from the bag and takes a swipe at Jace. Meanwhile, the Tat Guy uses his gun to launch a flare to signal an airship full of shimmer monsters similar to the ones from Season 1. Fishman, being the only competent enforcer present, tackles Tat Guy, while Kim Barron lady saws through some enforcers while trying to get to Jace. Kate grabs a gun from another enforcer just about the time the shimmer monsters bust into the plaza. Okay, let's go back over this. Given the distance and advantage that Kim Barron lady had, I don't know how she would have missed Jace. Yes, she said something that alerted him, but that doesn't change much when your target is within slapping distance and you have an extra large chainsaw, with 3 blades no less. Why 3 blades? Better yet, why a melee weapon at all? If you can sneak something in, why not get a gun that shoots chainsaws? Or a chainsaw that shoots bullets? I'm being facetious here because I think 3 blades on your chainsaw is over-designed nonsense. But really, why not have a projectile weapon? But even then, she does way too well with the chainsaw. She uses it to block bullets on top of dodging them. You might try to argue that she has shimmer or something that is making her faster, but she's still too slow to get Jace at point-blank range. Also, this other enforcer comes at her with his baton. Why doesn't he have a gun? I also like how we cut away from Jace's inescapable situation so he can escape. There will be a lot of this happening in the next couple of minutes. But for now, I'm going to talk about these shimmer monsters. So, the shimmer monsters were one of my bigger issues in the first season. They move incredibly fast, so much so that I'm not sure how Vi and Jace performed as well as they did in the first season. Maybe they'll have a nerf here. Let's see. Oh, they got a Giga Shimmer monster. Well, goodbye everyone. Kate takes a shot at the big one and the bullet just bounces off. You should remember this. The monsters ravage any enforcers they come across, killing them with ease. Vi tries to hit one with a blunt object, but it doesn't do much. Its focus is now on her, and she narrowly dodges a thrust from it. But we cut away before it can follow up that attack. Great. Back over to Jace, he's fending off Kim Barron lady with a section of railing. And just so we're clear, chainsaw beats bullets, but railing beats chainsaw. The enforcers should just make their bullets out of railing. Or maybe they should make bullets out of spears, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Jace's railing finally breaks, but he manages to grab the base of the chainsaw. He takes some shoulder damage, but in an edit that is like 3 frames, he manages to wrap his head around the saw and land an elbow on her jaw. It's like in less than half a second he goes from losing to not. Then it just sort of cuts to him with a finger in her mouth. I don't know, I just find these edits weird. Jace manages to pull out one of her nose tubes, and some nose tube juice gets in her eye. Don't you just hate it when that happens? She is momentarily stunned, but instead of following up on this advantage, Jace just sort of runs off. I mean, a foot on her hand and a knee to her face could do a lot. So next we have Maddie and Fishman putting the remaining counselors in a wagon. And Maddie, bless her heart, launches a smoke grenade. I imagine it is to give them cover for their escape, but wouldn't it put the melee monsters at an advantage against the rifle-wielding enforcers? We go back over to Kate and Vi for a few seconds, narrowly evading some attacks. And then the counselor wagon gets toppled by the Giga Monster. Kate also gets pinned down by a monster, but it decides to choke her instead of doing a stab. This gives Vi the time she needs to save her. That's nice. Vi then climbs onto the thing's back and she pulls the lock wheel off the thing's tank. No, I'm sorry, just no. Kate helps her up and then they both see that the Mega Monster is approaching the counselor wagon. Violet looks up at the council building, and I immediately guessed what she was thinking, and I was like, I'm sorry, you don't have time. But she does, actually, because it happens. Okay. Going back to Kim Baron Lady and Jace, she follows him behind the stage curtain, and Jace is just hiding there. Hey Jace, maybe try and find a back door or something. If you run in a straight line, she won't be able to keep up with you. She finds him almost immediately, which I just kind of find funny. He slinks away again and picks up a gavel and gives this expression like, now I have to use a small hammer. I gave this a smirk when I first saw it, but then all of the steps we took to get here came back into my mind and I felt sad again. We go back to the counselor wagon and Giga Monster pulls Maddie out of her seat. She probably could have taken him on, but oh no, she dropped her smoke gun. Anyway, back to Jace, he smacks Kim Baron Lady with the gavel, and it basically does nothing. He tries to run, but she slashes his back. So, you see something like that, in slow motion no less, and you would be forgiven for thinking this would have severe effects. Like a spinal injury, perhaps. That is assuming Kim Baron Lady doesn't follow up this attack with a kill. But why wouldn't she? He's right there on the... Oh, it cut away. Cool.
Holy shit, it's Gordon Ramsay!
That's him, officers! Get him!
Hey, what the fuck is this?
Sorry about this, Mr. Ramsay, but you're under arrest for aggravated reality televising.
Not today, donkeys.
What the devil?
Where'd he go?
We lost him in the edit. But don't worry, sir, we'll get that son of a bitch.
So, Vi is actually doing the thing she would not at all have the time to do, and she bumps into the guard, who drops the keys that Vi needs to get into Jace's lab.
What an unbelievable coincidence!
Anyway, Maddie is still dangling from the Giga Monster, but before he can land a killing blow, Fishman comes at him with an axe. So, Fishman had time to grab the axe, get out of the car, and manage to do with a melee weapon what bullets couldn't. Sure. Giga Monster drops Maddie and starts chasing Fishman. He's about to land the killing blow, but then Guy comes in with a piece of barrier and blocks the blow. You remember Guy, right? He had 2 sentences up to this point, one of which was, I like peanuts. He can just tank a blow from this giant. Sure, that's how physics works. Hey, you know you could just swipe him from the side, right? Anyway, Kate comes in and starts shooting. Weird that she is only doing that just now and not any of the time that the monster was carrying Maddie around. Maybe she couldn't find it in Maddie's smoke, even though it's a giant fuck-off monster. I just find it funny to think that Maddie's smoke kept Kate from being able to save her. I mean, think about this. Vi tells her to get the counselors out of here and then runs off, and Kate doesn't do anything until Shield Guy defies physics. Anyway, we cut back to Jace, who is still alive somehow. He crawled all the way back to the podium. Kim Baron Lady was nice enough to let him get all that distance. How about that? She kicks him over and says, "For my son," making it explicit to Jace why all of this is happening. But before she can land the killing blow, Vi makes it back from her time warp and shoots her. Man, that is quite the giant ball of energy, and it produces so much light that you can see a person's skeleton. Jace is fine though. You see, giant balls of energy only hurt your target. Collateral damage doesn't exist, even when you are right next to the blast. When I begin to lose my patience, my sarcasm starts to surface. Vi and Jace look over at the Giga Monster, which has weirdly increased in size for this shot. The rest of the monsters are encircling Kate, Maddie, Fish Guy, and Shield Guy. They could have a random enforcer in with them, and I wouldn't really be less confused. Who are these people? Why are they suddenly important? I don't even know half of their names. Kate shoots the Giga Monster in the glass, and it pancakes the bullet. Vi tries to use the hammer again, but she can't get it to work, so Jace has to help her. Didn't she literally just use it to save him? The Giga Monster is charging and Kate keeps putting shots into it. It's important to note just how big it was next to Shield Guy, how big it was in the wide shot, and the distance it has to travel to reach Kate. What I'm saying is that the scale is fucked. Also, they are still surrounded by other Shimmer monsters that aren't doing anything. But they're not on screen, so it's fine. Jace helps Vi aim the hammer, and we get this shot of the monsters charging the group. And look how serious Maddie is with her smoke gun. You may kill me, but I'll leave you with emphysema, so who's the real loser? So yeah, monsters are charging, hammer is getting brighter, when suddenly, spear. Actually, many spears. They all fly in and kill the Shimmer monsters. Noxus is here to save the day. Ambessa executes Kim Baron Lady, and we can all rest easy, while reflecting on the bullshit we just witnessed. Fucking spears? The bullets did virtually nothing, and maybe you're tempted to say magic spears. And if so, I'd ask for a reference. Well, Rictus has runes on his later. Yeah? Are they on these? God, what a shit show. Anyway, time for the aftermath. We are not done talking about the fight, because there are more reveals to come. But let's see what Vi and Kate have to say about all of this. Vi says to Kate, I thought for sure you were going to get yourself killed. Vi, you told her to get the counselors out while you ran off. Benefit of the hammer aside, you directed her to danger. Also, a lot of people are actually dead. Civilians and enforcers alike. Probably not the time to be cute about all of this. Kate says, a memorial. What kind of animals? And when she says the word animals, the camera crops to show only her mouth, which is cringe on its own, but as they probably intended, I immediately realized why they did it. For starters, they want you to know that she's broadly referring to everyone in the Undercity, which I have already touched on how she out of almost everyone topside should have the most nuanced perspective on them. It just doesn't work. Secondly, they want to push Kate in a more unhinged direction in regards to the Undercity, which I'm not sure would progress all that well once Jace reveals that this all happened because he killed that kid. Because that is absolutely something he would share if he knew that it would prevent things from spiraling out of control. Vi says, they're just trying to scare you. Scare you? Really? I think they want to do a bit more than scare. Kate responds, all they did was piss me off, which feels like a bland and stupid response. Vi says something dumb and Caitlyn just goes with it rather than being confused. Vi continues by saying, you need to find a way to call up the invasion. So at this point, the invasion is already in the works. If anything, this attack would solidify and expedite it. What the hell is Vi smoking? What could Kate possibly say to the remaining counselors to convince them not to go through with this? Vi goes on to say, this battle was on your soil. Down there, you'll be on their terms. I'm reminded of something Jace said to Silco. Your people wouldn't stand a chance. I'm trying to save you from annihilation. The problem isn't being on their turf. It's that Piltover would stomp. And Vi should know this. Kate replies, none of this is on our terms. To which Vi says, maybe you should change that. I'm really annoyed at how tone-deaf Vi is being here. Dead bodies and blood are all around, and she's consoling Kate like a parent consoles a child when they put their clothes on backward. Kate says, I don't know how. She dies and leaves this giant hole, and I'm just supposed to fill it. I'm not sure what Kate means by this in relation to calling off the invasion. She doesn't really have any power in the council beyond offering advice. Being a counselor's daughter doesn't imbue you with any legislative power as far as I'm aware. It's not a hereditary position, and Kate doesn't have the experience required. Vi replies, the hole gets smaller, but you'll never fill it. Which in isolation is alright, but progression of this conversation is like shoving crap in my ear and then offering me a cotton swab. Kate says, I was wrong to spring the badge on you, but every way I slice it, if I go after your sister alone, one of us comes back in a box. I've already touched on this, but as far as I see it, there is no reason that you couldn't just bring Vi along as a consultant or something. Kate goes on to say, it's all falling apart, and Vi says, no it isn't, we won't let it. I find this interesting to think about in a meta sense, but for now, we go on to the next scene. It starts with the voice of Caitlyn's mother saying, I know you doubt your birthright, Caitlyn. There's wisdom in that, but remember, you're a Curaman. And to me, that just kind of sounds like, I know you doubt your legacy, but remember your legacy. Thanks, Mom. Really helpful. Caitlin plugs the key into a slideshow machine and it shows some information that we will get more context for later. The slides are also intercut with Jace, hammer in hand, walking toward a forge. Boy, that slice across your back really had minimal impact, huh? We go over to the counselors, still without Jace, who are hiding underground. And Counselor Wheels is seething about it. He says, "Does anyone still doubt that our enemy is greater than one deranged individual?" Now, I understand that Counselor Wheels has lost a lot from all of this, but the full context of the actions of Jinx and Kim Baron Lady are isolated and pretty much unrelated to one another. Kim Baron Lady made it explicit to Jace why it was all happening, which being as invested in peace as Jace is, he would absolutely inform his fellow council members. And Jinx essentially did what she did for Silco and no one else. A prudent approach would be to find whoever is in charge of the Undercity right now and get their input. There's a whole conversation to be had about why Zaun attacked like this after being offered a very generous sovereignty deal. Now, it's worth noting that Silco probably didn't have time to share the terms of the deal with anyone of authority. But again, there is no conversation or attempt at a conversation that addresses any of this. As soon as word gets out that Silco was offered a sovereignty deal and that Jinx killed him, her time would be pretty much over. Anyway, Counselor Neck wonders how the attack on the memorial was even possible. And Mel says they must have had help from someone up here. And after she says that, the camera subtly focuses on Ambessa. And when I say subtly, I mean the exact opposite of that. It's unmistakable what they want to imply with this shot. I might as well get this out of the way now. Ambessa helped facilitate Kim Baron Lady's attack on the memorial. She did this by having Rictus give Kim Baron Lady an invitation. The reason Ambessa made this possible is because she wants Hextech weapons for her cause. So let's explore all of this. First off, if you could get an airship full of shimmer monsters into the airspace, why bother with the invitation at all? Having the monsters there would serve Ambessa's purpose just fine, and Kim Baron Lady wouldn't have to put herself in harm's way. And you might be thinking, well, she wanted to kill Jace personally, at which point she's just evil and stupid. She is immensely lucky that the enforcers were grossly incompetent. Secondly, we need to talk about who is in control of Hextech. As far as we know, Jace and Victor are the only ones who can work Hextech. You would think you would want to get local scientists in on it for the purposes of maintenance or innovation. It's been like 10 years since it was invented, and as far as the show has told us, it's just Victor and Jace. The reason I bring this up is because it is made clear in a later episode that no other scientist can manage to work the hex crystals. But even still, having the inventors of it alive and on your side is a huge benefit. Kim Baron Lady wants to kill Jace, and only through her sheer incompetence does she fail in this task. Ambessa is a moron for facilitating this, especially since she does nothing to help until the last second. Thirdly, Mel could have been easily killed several times in this fight, and for as much emphasis as Ambessa puts on her family, you would think she would not want to have Mel in these dire straits. This fight scene is in a way indicative of how the whole season is going to go. The more information you get on prior events, the less they make sense. Anyway, Caitlin shows up and says, "We're not prepared for a full-scale invasion. The Undercity's attack proved that. First off, it's not the Undercity. If Jace were here, he would tell you. Secondly, the attack proved no such thing. It was a surprise attack on home soil. That is not at all an indicator of your invasive abilities. And if you think the Shimmer monsters proved too great a challenge, I would remind you that Jace and Vi were able to fend off several of them pretty much on their own. Hell, they technically beat them at the memorial, so you can take your lampshade and fuck off elsewhere." Counselor Wheels says, "This is a closed counselor meeting. Who let you in here?" Caitlin responds by saying, "I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect or keep your mouth shut." What a cringy cunt. Imagine if Counselor Wheels said in response, "Well, I am Counselor Salo, one of the rulers of Piltover, and by extension, your boss. So you can fuck right off, you self-relating twat." Should I even bother to bring up what she said about arrogance earlier in this episode? To quote Marcus, "I know you're used to getting your way, Kiraman, but we have a chain of command for a reason." First off, being a decorated officer doesn't mean that you can barge into a counselor meeting and shout down a member. That has nothing to do with anything here. Secondly, all of these counselors are from notable families, presumably. What makes yours so special that you think you can act like this? Also, why are you the leader of your family? Your dad is still alive. Does having the Kiraman key make you the leader or something? And even if all of that is the case, what are your qualifications for being here? Being a 20-something-year-old that's good with a rifle doesn't mean you have an understanding of military logistics or political systems. She was little more than a cadet a couple of weeks ago. So Kate continues by saying that she will lead a strike team into Zon with 3 objectives: locate Jinx, dismantle Shimmer, and neutralize any agent still loyal to Silco. Counselor Wheels asks, "What makes you think you'll fare any better than our forces today?" And Kate replies, "We've got a few surprises of our own." And then Violet and some Randys walk in holding Hextech weapons made by Jace.
Oh, okay.
Where the fuck do I even begin? Well, Jace, I suppose. All the way back in Season 1. Near the end of that season, Jace was arguably the most powerful person on the council. His technology revolutionized the city of Piltover, and he was being pushed by events to weaponize his technology. He was convinced by Vi to go down and attack one of Silco's facilities in spite of the council's apprehension, where he got to learn firsthand about the collateral damage his weaponized technology would cause. This pushed him so far away from wanting war that he offered Silco a very generous sovereignty deal. Silco being dead does not change the existence of collateral damage. Jace would still be interested in peace talks with whoever the new leader would be, so the attack from Jinx would have little impact on Jace's perspective. And during the second attack, it was made explicit to Jace that it was a response to the collateral damage he caused, meaning that this was not an attack from the Undercity as a whole. I don't buy for a second that either of these events would push him to this decision. There is no conversation for what should be a heavy choice, and we get here in the span of an episode. As far as I'm concerned, this is just character assassination for Jace. Also, it's important to remember that Counselor Wheels said the attack happened the same day, so Jace went to the hospital, then went to his forge and made weapons that evening. He figured out the same time warp as Vi, I guess. Oh yeah, Vi is an enforcer now. That's also some bullshit. Let's go back to Season 1 again. Her very first scene in the show ends with her glaring hatefully at some enforcers. As far as she's concerned, the enforcers as a whole are responsible for killing her parents. Her becoming one is a massive decision, and it should take a lot of time to get her in that position. It happens in one episode. Furthermore, she is against it all the way up until she just isn't. In her previous scene, she is even against the invasion itself, but now she's just going along with it? The most you get is her looking reluctant as she walks in. Sorry, that's not enough. It is such a waste of a story opportunity. Having her overcome her hatred and join the faction responsible for her parents' death is something that presents a lot of thought-provoking moments. But fuck me for wanting to think about stuff. We also have to talk about the rest of the crew. At this point, I still don't know Fishman's name. And Shield Guy isn't named until the penultimate episode of the season. And Maddie has a fucking smoke gun. These guys are barely above background characters, and now they're a part of Caitlyn's elite team? Who the hell are they? Are there not more qualified members of the Enforcers? Someone who is skilled in infiltration perhaps? A fucking smoke gun? Is it powered by Hextech? What were you thinking? What's going on? This isn't what I asked for. I didn't like this episode when I first watched it, and it only got much worse on a rewatch. It is the inverse of the first season, where you would rewatch an episode and pick up more cool details in the writing. There are so many instances of the characters saying dumb things, and the action is bonkers. Christ. At the end of this episode is a brief shot of Victor waking up. Nothing I can do with that for now. And also, the mad scientist from the first season is hunting some wolves. Nothing I can do with that right now either. On to episode 2, I guess.
I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect, or keep your mouth shut.